Super. BS.
Celeste is something special. It begins similarly to many other platformers from a bygone era, simply by moving to the right. Within 10 minutes, you're jumping and dashing up walls. By the time you played for 30 minutes, you most likely will have died at least 30 times. If it weren't as tight or there wasn't a certain magic to it, I probably would have given up on my 100th death. Or at least my 500th. But now I just keep playing. The game is nearly the definition of insanity. I'll try the same jump over and over again, expecting different results. Now this might take 1 minute or it could be close to an hour. But the funny thing is, at some point, I'll just get it. Nothing in Celeste feels impossible or unfair. Yes, there were moments where I attempted the same jump for close to an hour, cursing and repeating to myself that's just not possible. But maybe later, next time I picked up the console, I'll complete it immediately and move on, cursing and repeating to myself at another section. Yes, Celeste is something special. Celeste came out on January 25th, 2018 on PC, Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. I purchased the Switch version, and this is my review based on playing it portably and in dock mode with a Pro controller. In these past 2 weeks, I've played more than 15 hours. Actually, this review was supposed to go up last week, but I couldn't find time to pry myself away from the game. The music you hear in the background all comes from Celeste. So without further ado, here's my review of Celeste. Climbing Up the Walls. The artwork in Celeste seems simplistic. At first glance, it looks like a lost generation between the NES and the Super Nintendo. A 12-bit style, if you will. But there's so much more detail beneath the surface. The character portraits and fluid sprite movements make it feel modern, like something from a 32-bit or 64-bit era. It's a strange feeling to have so much nostalgia for a game I've never played. It evokes the memory of how those old games used to play, instead of playing like them. The art is a treat, and over the course of the 7 main chapters, each of the locations on the mountain that you climb have a different aesthetic that makes them all memorable. The old ghost hotel, the underground cave, the cloudy summit, the city tower sprawl, all in a game that could take you anywhere from a couple hours to possibly 4 times that to complete. Every environment feels fresh and new, excluding the last chapter that plays like a greatest hits in all the right ways. The artwork isn't the only part of Celeste that feels nostalgic. The soundtrack is a fun collection of synth music that ranges from uplifting and inspiring to ambient and adventurous. It made an impact on me enough that I had to purchase the album. I can't say it's the best soundtrack or even the best gaming music I've heard in the past few months, but it stayed with me. It has this alluring power. Another wonderful thing about the soundtrack, there are these special hidden levels that you can unlock by finding B-side cassette tapes in each of the chapters. Each of these B-sides have remixes of the original soundtrack by various artists. All of these remixes are incredible. If I'd recommend one track from this album, it would have to be Resurrections. It comes in at a moment in the game where the story just starts to get interesting and weird, and it fits perfectly. Parts of it remind me of a lost Clint Mansell track, back from his glory age. Now about the story. It starts off uninteresting and simple. You're climbing a mountain. No duh. But within an hour, it starts to get weird. Without spoiling too much, you find a part of yourself, which turns an amazingly tight platformer into a compelling and deep adventure. I'm not going to say that's without flaws, but I will say that if you stick with it, you'll definitely be rewarded. Also, the dialogue between Madeline, the protagonist, and Theo is perfect. After recently complaining about poorly written video game dialogue, it was so refreshing to read dialogue that comes off as authentic. The platforming is some of the best in the business, if not currently the best. It felt to me like someone had played Super Meat Boy and thought, I could do this, but I also can make it into a connected platforming game instead of individual levels. While the chapters are broken up into 100, if not hundreds, of different connected screens. As you move between them, you can find cracks and crevices that allow you to hunt the elusive strawberries, B-sides, or another very important collectible. I love the strawberries because the game flat out tells you that there is no point to collect them. But the challenge in figuring out the platforming puzzles is reward enough. That and the obsessive collector within me wants to get them all. The gameplay is tight. So tight that even though I completed the main story, I ended up finishing all of the B-sides, unlocked the mysterious post-credit chapter, completed that, and then continued to play. All in a game that is essentially a semi-linear platformer. I have dozens of AAA open-world adventure RPGs waiting for me, and I have been pouring all of my free time into a game that feels like it could have come out decades ago. There is something special in Celeste. A mountain that Madeline has to climb to prove she can do it. I had to beat this game to prove I could. Like the Radiohead song Climbing Up the Walls, Celeste is a story about who you are, what you try to hide, and what you try to forget. Celeste is a game about overcoming. Celeste is something special. I give it 162 over 175 strawberries. That's roughly 92%. P.S. I base my score on the amount of strawberries I collected over the course of the game. As you can imagine, this number only went up the more that I played. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That's to us people that can feel things. It hurts.